Welcome, everyone, to everything you need to know about finance. This is the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something fundamental, a concept that comes up all the time in planning for the future, the 4% rule.
It really does. And just quickly before we dive in, it's super important to say up front,
Yeah.
what we're sharing today comes from a lot of research, studies, data.
Yeah.
But this is purely informational. It's not financial advice for your specific situation. Seriously, please talk to a qualified financial professional for personal advice.
Absolutely, a crucial point. So, keeping that in mind, this 4% rule, it's gained this almost mythic status, hasn't it, for financial independence, for retirement. It sounds simple. People say it's powerful. It seems to offer a clear path. Okay,
Yeah.
let's unpack this. What problem is it really trying to solve for people?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. At its heart, the 4% rule is basically a guideline. It helped answer that huge question, how much money can I actually take out of my savings each year,
Yeah.
without running out?
Yeah.
The core idea, the theory, is that if you withdraw 4% of your total invested savings in year one of retirement, and then you adjust that dollar amount upwards for inflation each following year, your money should theoretically last you for, say, 30 years, maybe even longer in some scenarios.
I kind of picture it like a speedometer for your savings in retirement.
Right. Yeah, that's a good analogy.
It tells you how fast you can safely spend down that nest egg without hitting empty too soon. It's finding that sweet spot, isn't it? Living the life you want, but making sure the money lasts. So how does someone actually use this? Like, practically, what's step one?
It's actually pretty straightforward, a two-step calculation, really. First step,
Yeah.
you got to figure out your estimated annual expenses when you retire. Think about everything: housing, food, travel, healthcare, the works. Let's say you estimate you'll need, I don't know, $40,000 a year, or maybe it's $60,000.
Right, get that yearly number.
Exactly. Once you have that number, step two is simple. Multiply it by 25. So if you need $40,000 a year times 25, that's $1 million. That's your target savings goal.
Okay. And if it's $60,000?
60,000 times 25 is $1.5 million. That becomes your target number.
Got it. So that tells you the size of the nest egg you're aiming for. Then what? How do you actually, draw the money out?
Right, the withdrawal part. So in your very first year of retirement, you take out 4% of that target amount you saved. So from the $1 million example, 4% is $40,000. You withdraw that in year one.
Okay.
Then in year two, and every year after, you take that initial $40,000 amount and adjust it for inflation. So if inflation was, say, 3%, you'd withdraw $41,200 the next year. You're adjusting the amount, not recalculating the 4% each year.
Ah, okay. That's a key distinction. You adjust the dollar amount, not the percentage of the current portfolio.
Precisely. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, something people often miss. You don't actually have to wait until you hit that full million or 1.5 million, whatever your number is, to start seeing real benefits.
How so?
Well, think about it. Let's say you've saved up maybe $300,000. That's a great achievement.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so 4% of $300,000 is $12,000 a year. That's $1,000 a month, passively generated by your investments. Now, $1,000 a month, that can cover real things. Maybe your entire grocery bill, maybe your car payment and insurance.
Wow. Okay. So it's not just this far off retirement thing. It's about building towards points where parts of your life are funded by your savings, giving you options now.
Exactly. It fundamentally shifts the focus from just retirement at some distant age to achieving stages of financial freedom along the way. It means getting to a point where your money is working for you, generating income, reducing your reliance on a paycheck. It opens up choices much, much sooner.
That's a powerful reframe. And you mentioned this isn't just pulled out of thin air. There's history behind this 4% number.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just some random guess. The 4% rule's credibility comes largely from its foundation in historical stock market data. Specifically, a really influential piece of research known as the Trinity Study.
The Trinity Study, right. Heard of that.
Yeah. So what they did was essentially backtest this withdrawal strategy. They looked at how long retirement savings would last using different withdrawal rates and different mixes of stocks and bonds. And they tested it over a long, challenging period, specifically 1926 to 1976. Think about what happened then.
Yeah, that includes the Great Depression.
Exactly. The Depression of the 30s, high inflation, the volatile markets in the early 70s. I mean, really tough times for investors.
So the rule was designed knowing markets can go really sour sometimes. It wasn't just based on good years.
That's the crucial part. It was specifically tested against periods that included some of the worst market downturns in history. The fact that the 4% withdrawal rate held up, generally allowed portfolios to last 30 years even when starting retirement in those awful times. That gives it a lot of weight. It showed resilience.
That's actually really reassuring.
It is. And importantly, the study assumed a diversified portfolio. You can't just put all your money in one stock and expect this to work. Typically, they looked at mixes of stocks and bonds, often something like 50% stocks, 50% intermediate-term government bonds.
Diversification is key, Ben.
Absolutely. The idea is that a well-diversified portfolio, maybe using something like broad market index funds, has historically, over the long run, tended to grow faster than that 4% withdrawal rate. Allows the principal to hopefully keep pace or even grow despite withdrawals. And by the way, if you want to hear more about index funds specifically, you can check it out in our index funds playlist.
Good point. And wasn't the guy who came up with it Bengen? Didn't he think 4% was actually kind of conservative?
Yeah, Bill Bengen. He introduced the concept back in the mid-90s. And you're right, he often framed 4% as a sort of worst-case starting point based on the historical data he analyzed. He even suggested later that maybe 4.5% or even 5% might be perfectly safe, maybe even more realistic for many people, depending on the specifics.
Interesting. Okay, so it's got this strong historical backing designed for resilience. But like anything, there must be catches, right?
Yeah.
What are the nuances or limitations people need to be aware of?
Definitely. It's a guideline, not gospel. So a few key things. First, it doesn't explicitly budget for, like, huge unexpected emergencies. Think major medical bills later in life, which can unfortunately happen.
Right, those big unknowns.
Exactly. Also, that 30-year time frame. If you're planning to retire really early, say in your 40s, you might need your money to last 40, 50, even 60 years. The original 4% rule wasn't explicitly tested for that long a horizon, so it might need adjustment or a more conservative approach.
Good point for the FIRE movement, folks.
Yeah, and another big one, it relies on discipline. You have to stick to the plan. If you suddenly pull out a huge chunk of money for, say, a luxury boat or something way outside the plan, that can seriously derail the whole thing. It reduces your principal, the engine of your returns, and impacts that crucial compounding effect down the line. Less money working for you means the plan might not last.
So cutting into the principal is the danger zone.
Big time. And finally, maybe the most obvious one. It's based on past performance. While history is our best guide, there's absolutely no guarantee future market returns or inflation will behave exactly the same way. It's a probability, not a certainty.
Makes sense. It's a guide, not a crystal ball. So what's fascinating here is this debate you mentioned. Some experts saying maybe be more cautious, like 3%, while Bengen himself thought maybe even 5%.
Yeah, there's definitely ongoing discussion. Some argue that current lower interest rate environments might make 4% riskier than it used to be, suggesting 3% or 3.5% might be safer now. Others, pointing to long-term stock market growth, still feel 4% or even higher is reasonable. It often comes down to debates about the best portfolio mix in retirement, how many stocks versus bonds, and how that might change over time.
It's complex. But I heard Michael Kitzes, the financial planner, he's looked at this quite a bit, right?
Yes, Kitz has done a lot of work on this. And his research is actually pretty encouraging for the 4% rule. He observed that even people who retired right before major crashes, like the dot-com bust in 2000 or the financial crisis in 2008.
Yeah, scary times to retire.
Absolutely. But even for them, the 4% rule, while definitely stressed, didn't necessarily lead to outright failure or running out of money completely in most historical scenarios he modeled. He makes the point that, historically speaking, a 4% withdrawal is actually quite modest compared to the long-term average returns of a balanced portfolio, which might be closer to, say, 7 or 8% historically.
Yeah.
There's often been a buffer.
That perspective adds some confidence, doesn't it? Even through major crises.
It does offer a degree of comfort based on past events.
And we mentioned inflation adjustments earlier. How flexible is that part?
It's pretty flexible. The standard approach is just adjusting that initial dollar amount each year by whatever the official inflation rate was, like using the CPI, Consumer Price Index. Or some people might simplify and just use a flat rate, like assuming 2% or 3% inflation each year and increasing their withdrawal by that fixed percentage. It helps maintain your purchasing power over time.
Okay, got it. And Just quickly, if you're finding this kind of deep dive into financial concepts useful, please do take a moment to like this and subscribe. It really helps others find this information too.
Yeah, absolutely. So circling back to that idea of freedom and progress.
Right. The $300 K example.
Exactly. That $1,000 a month generated from 300K saved. It's not just numbers on a page. It's tangible. It might mean you can afford to go part-time sooner, or cover childcare costs, or pursue a passion project without financial stress. Each milestone, each chunk of savings you build according to this rule buys you back some of your time and energy.
I love that. It reframes saving from deprivation to actively buying future freedom step by step. You see the benefits accumulate, which must be motivating.
Hugely motivating. It shifts us from this massive, maybe intimidating goal to a series of achievable steps, each with its own reward. You scale up your freedom as your portfolio grows.
So what does this all mean when we think about mindset? Beyond just hitting the target number?
Well, this raises an important question, perhaps a shift in thinking. Once you reach that target number calculated by the 4% rule, or maybe even surpass it, the goal could potentially shift. Instead of just withdrawing 4% and maybe slowly drawing down principal over decades, you might aim to live primarily or even entirely off the interest and capital gains your portfolio generates each year without touching the original principal much or at all.
So preserving the principal indefinitely.
Potentially, yes. Especially if you save more than the minimum target. It moves beyond just funding your own retirement to potentially creating lasting wealth, maybe even for future generations or philanthropic goals. It's a mindset shift from spending down to living off the proceeds.
That's a really profound evolution of the goal, from enough to last to enough to generate income forever.
It can be, yeah. A different way to think about true financial independence.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. The 4% rule. It's clearly a really valuable tool, isn't it? A simple framework, anyway, for thinking about financial planning, retirement, financial independence. It helps connect today's saving habits with tomorrow's spending needs. It's imperfect, sure, based on the past, but it gives you a concrete, easy-to-understand target and a strategy. A powerful starting point for taking control.
Absolutely. It provides that vital link between how much you save and how much freedom that saving can buy you. And maybe a final thought to leave people with, thinking about the future. What if using this rule as a guide does more than just secure your finances? What if reaching that point of financial stability actually unlocks the flexibility to pursue things you really care about? Maybe it's passions. Maybe it's adapting to unexpected life turns. Maybe it's having the capacity to give back or leave a legacy you hadn't even planned on. Consider how this financial framework could be, a launch pad, not just for retirement, but for a life with more purpose, more options, more contribution, enabled by the security you've built. Something to think about.